The Nephilim. Genesis chapter 6 verse 4 tells us that they were the heroes of old, men of renown, people of great size and strength. For reference, you can see Numbers chapter 13 verse 31 to 33. The Hebrew word means fallen ones. In men's eyes, these were the heroes of old, men of renown. But in God's eyes they were sinners, the fallen ones, ripe for judgment. Many researchers believe the Nephilim were giants, while others gather the word stems from the meaning of the fallen ones. Common references to this race of beings include the daughters of men, sons of God, fallen angels, and watchers. There are also references to giant offspring to the Nephilim in various cultures such as Anakim, Nephitim, and Elijo. There have been many references to giant skeletons and skulls surfacing around the world believed to be the ancient giant race. Note that the writer does not say that they are fallen angels, that is, angels who disobeyed God and were punished and were sent to the earth. Later writers held this belief in 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 4 and Jude verse 6, but the writer of Genesis did not. According to Genesis chapter 6 verse 1 to 4, the Nephilim came from the union of the sons of God and daughters of men. The phrase sons of God here has been interpreted to refer either to angels or to human beings. Some interpreters appeal to Jude verse 6 to 7 in referring the phrase here to angels, whereas some describe it as the godly men according to which Paul uses to describe all true Christians in Romans chapter 8 verse 14. If so, then as the context suggests that verse 1 to 2 describes the intermarriage of the Sethites, who are sons of God, of chapter 5, with the Canaanites, who are daughters of men, of chapter 4, indicating a breakdown in the separation of the two groups. This had been a debatable topic since the ancient time. Men began to tell stories when they met very unusual people or things, and they wanted to explain what had caused them. Probably in this case, a tribe of unusually tall people lived in Palestine a long time before the Israelites went there. And other tribes said they must have been the children of gods or of some strange beings who were partially divine. Why then did the editor of Genesis, writing a very long time afterwards, include the story here? The answer seems to be this. The story of the flood in Genesis chapter 6 to 9 shows that man was punished because of the evil in the world. These 4 verses are an introduction to the story. In them, the writer says, in the form of a picture, evil is greater and more serious than most people think. It is a disease which spoils the whole created universe. We who read Genesis chapter 6, verse 1 to 4 may have been puzzled at the extent, thinking about the Nephilim, assuming them to be either coming from the union of the sons of God as the fallen angels with the daughters of men, or the sons of God as the godly men from Seth's line. Well, according to my survey, the sons of God can possibly be godly men from Seth's line who began to acknowledge the name of the Lord and then got married to the daughters of men from Cain's line, whom God sent out of his presence and no longer acknowledged the name of the Lord. And it seems from this association that their effect upon mankind was one of the primary justifications that brought the destruction. Dear learners, these questions will keep arising in our minds because the writer of Genesis did not intend it to tell us about these 4 verses or give us a clean picture of the Nephilim. Therefore, his only intention was to give an introduction to the story of the flood. He wanted to prepare us for the story of the flood. As I've already mentioned that these 4 verses were an introduction to the story of the flood. He wanted to convey us that evil is greater and more serious than most people think.